When a black man is accused of kidnapping a white girl in the park, the truth behind their encounter sparks a firestorm, and the real kidnapper isn't who anyone expected. The spring sun shone brightly over Hillcrest Park that Tuesday afternoon. Marcus Johnson, a 38-year-old elementary school teacher, sat on a weathered wooden bench beneath a sprawling oak tree. His dark fingers flipped through student assignments as he occasionally glanced up at his 8-year-old daughter, Zara, playing on the swings nearby. The gentle breeze carried children's laughter across the carefully maintained green space, a sound that always made Marcus smile no matter how exhausting his day had been. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Across the park, little Lily Anderson, a blonde-haired 7-year-old, played with several other children near the jungle gym. Her mother, Karen Anderson, was supposed to pick her up 30 minutes ago, but was running late due to an unexpected work meeting. Lily, growing impatient and thirsty, spotted a water fountain near where Marcus sat and skipped over to get a drink. "Excuse me, mister," Lily said, approaching Marcus after quenching her thirst. "My mom is late and I'm getting hungry. Do you know what time it is?" Marcus checked his watch. "It's almost 5:30. Is someone coming to get you soon?" he asked kindly. Lily shrugged, her small shoulders lifting beneath her pink cardigan. "My mom said she'd be here at 5, but sometimes she's late because of work stuff." "Well, you shouldn't wait alone," Marcus said, concerned about the young child's safety. "Why don't you sit here until your mom comes? My daughter Zara is over there on the swings." "I'm Mr. Johnson. I actually teach 3rd grade at Westfield Elementary." 15 minutes passed as Marcus continued grading papers while occasionally making small talk with Lily. The park had begun to empty as families headed home for dinner. When Lily mentioned being hungry, Marcus reached into his bag and offered her a granola bar from his daughter's snack supply, which she gratefully accepted. As the evening shadows lengthened across the park, Marcus noticed Lily shivering slightly in the cooling air. "Here," he said, pulling a small fleece blanket from his daughter's backpack. "You can use this until your mom comes." Unknown to Marcus, Stephanie Meyer, another parent at the park, had been watching this interaction from a distance. She didn't hear their conversation, but saw a black man talking to a small white girl who was now wrapped in a blanket and eating something he had given her. Drawing troubling conclusions, she discreetly took photos with her phone and called 911. "There's a man at Hillcrest Park who I think might be trying to kidnap a little girl," Stephanie whispered urgently into her phone, her eyes never leaving Marcus and Lily. "He's black, wearing a blue button-up shirt, and the little girl is blonde, probably around 6 or 7. She doesn't seem to know him, and he's giving her food and wrapped her in a blanket like he's trying to pacify her. Please, hurry!" Within minutes, 2 police cruisers screeched to a halt at the park entrance, their lights flashing in urgent blue and red patterns against the darkening sky. Officers Ramirez and Blake rushed toward Marcus with hands hovering near their weapons. Marcus looked up from his papers, confusion evident on his face as the officers approached. "Sir, we need you to step away from the child," Officer Ramirez commanded firmly, positioning himself between Marcus and Lily. Marcus stood slowly, bewilderment clouding his features. "Is there a problem, officers?" "Please put your hands where I can see them and step back," Officer Blake ordered, her voice tense with authority. Marcus complied immediately, his teacher's instinct recognizing the seriousness of the situation, though he couldn't understand why. "What's happening?" Zara called, running over from the swings toward her father. Officer Blake intercepted her, gently but firmly keeping her away from Marcus. "We received a report of a possible child abduction in progress," Officer Ramirez explained, his eyes darting between Marcus and Lily. "Ma'am," he addressed Lily, kneeling to her level, "do you know this man?" Before Lily could answer, a crowd began to gather, drawn by the police presence and flashing lights. Among them was Stephanie, the woman who had called 911, now pointing at Marcus and speaking animatedly to another officer who had just arrived. "I was just waiting for my mom," Lily explained, her small voice trembling with confusion and fear at the sudden commotion. Mr. Johnson was being nice to me because I was hungry and cold. Officer Blake was taking notes. And how do you know Mr. Johnson? She asked, her tone softening for the child. I don't really know him. I just met him today, but he said he's a teacher at Westfield Elementary. That's where my friend Emma goes to school, Lily replied. The officers exchanged glances, their suspicions seemingly confirmed by Lily's admission that she had just met Marcus. Meanwhile, someone in the growing crowd had started filming with their phone. The camera focused on Marcus, standing with his hands visible, humiliation evident in his rigid posture. I'm going to need you to come with me, sir, Officer Ramirez said to Marcus, reaching for his handcuffs. Wait, Marcus protested, his voice strained but controlled. I'm a teacher at Westfield. My daughter Zara and I come to this park every Tuesday. I was just helping Lily because her mother is late picking her up. Please, call the school principal, Dr. Williams. She can verify who I am. The tension in the air was palpable as whispers rippled through the crowd. Some onlookers had already made up their minds, their expressions hardened with judgment. Others looked uncertain, glancing between the frightened child and the composed but clearly distressed man. Officer Blake knelt beside Lily again. Sweetie, is what he's saying true? Were you waiting for your mom? Lily nodded vigorously, tears welling in her eyes. Yes, my mom is late, and Mr. Johnson gave me a granola bar because I was hungry and a blanket because it got cold. He was being nice. His daughter is right there. She pointed toward Zara, who was now crying and trying to reach her father. Just as Officer Ramirez was considering his next move, a frantic woman rushed into the park, her blonde hair disheveled, and her business attire slightly rumpled. Lily! Lily! She called out, panic evident in her voice. Mommy! Lily broke away from Officer Blake and ran into her mother's arms. Karen Anderson, she introduced herself breathlessly to the officers. I'm so sorry I'm late. My meeting ran over, and then the traffic was terrible. What's happening here? Why? Are there police? As Karen Anderson held her daughter tightly, Officer Ramirez explained the situation. Her face transformed from confusion to horror as she realized what had occurred. Wait, you thought he was kidnapping my daughter? Karen asked incredulously, looking at Marcus, who still stood with his hands visible, though Officer Blake had signaled him to relax slightly. That's ridiculous. Lily, honey, what happened while you were waiting for me? Between sniffles, Lily recounted how Marcus had kindly offered her a place to wait, given her a snack when she was hungry, and shared his daughter's blanket when she got cold. He was just being nice, Mommy, she concluded. Karen turned to the officers, her expression hardening with righteous indignation. So let me get this straight. This gentleman saw my daughter alone in a park because I was late, and instead of leaving her to fend for herself, he made sure she was safe and comfortable, and someone called the police on him for that? We respond to all reports of potential child endangerment, ma'am, Officer Ramirez explained, though his posture had relaxed considerably. We had to investigate. Investigate? Yes, Karen said, sharply. But it looks to me like you were about to handcuff this man without even getting the full story. By this time, Marcus had been reunited with Zara, who clung to him tightly, her small face buried against his side. The crowd of onlookers had grown, and the person filming had captured the entire exchange. Who made the original call? Karen demanded, looking around at the gathered crowd. There was a moment of tense silence before Stephanie Meyer reluctantly stepped forward. I did, she admitted, her voice small but defensive. I saw him with your daughter, and they didn't look related. He was giving her food and a blanket, and it seemed suspicious. Suspicious? Karen repeated incredulously. Suspicious that a black man was being kind to a white child? Is that what you mean? Stephanie's face flushed. That's not what I was just concerned. You weren't concerned when my daughter was sitting alone in the park for nearly an hour, Karen interrupted, But the moment a black man shows her basic human kindness, you call the police? Do you have any idea what could have happened? He could have been arrested, lost his job, or worse. The crowd had fallen silent, many looking down in discomfort or shame. The video was still recording, capturing every word of Karen's impassioned defense. Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm despite the emotion evident in his eyes. I understand the concern for children's safety. As a teacher and a father, I share it. But what happened here today was not about protecting a child. It was about making assumptions based on the color of my skin. Officer Ramirez cleared his throat. Mr. Johnson, on behalf of the department, I apologize for the misunderstanding. You're free to go, of course. This wasn't a misunderstanding, Marcus corrected firmly. This was racial profiling, plain and simple. By the next morning, the video of the incident had gone viral. Local news stations picked up the story, running headlines like, "Local teacher falsely accused of kidnapping while helping child," and "Good Samaritan or child predator? How racial. Bias clouds judgment." Marcus Johnson sat at his kitchen table, scrolling through his phone as messages of support flooded in from colleagues, parents of students, and community members. Zara was still asleep upstairs, thankfully too young to fully understand the implications of what had happened the day before. A knock at the door revealed Karen Anderson standing on his porch, holding Lily's hand and a gift basket. "We wanted to thank you properly," she said when Marcus opened the door, "and to apologize again for what happened." Marcus invited them in, offering coffee to Karen and juice to Lily. As they sat in his living room, Karen explained that she had filed a formal complaint against both Stephanie Meyer and the police department for their handling of the situation. "You didn't have to do that," Marcus said, though gratitude showed in his tired eyes. "Yes, I did," Karen insisted. "What happened to you was wrong, and it needs to be addressed. Lily and I have had several long talks about it." She glanced at her daughter, who nodded solemnly. "Mr. Johnson," Lily said, her voice small but determined, "I told my whole class what happened, and my teacher said we're going to have a special lesson about not judging people by how they look." Marcus smiled, genuinely touched by the child's words. "That's very good to hear, Lily." The conversation was interrupted by another knock. This time, it was Dr. Williams, the principal of Westfield Elementary, along with several members of the school board and the superintendent. "Marcus," Dr. Williams began after introductions were made, "we want you to know that the school stands firmly behind you. What happened was inexcusable, and we've already issued a statement of support." The superintendent stepped forward. "In fact, Mr. Johnson, we'd like to discuss an opportunity with you. We've been looking to create a new position focusing on diversity and inclusion within our district, and after seeing how you handled yesterday's incident with such dignity and grace, we believe you would be the perfect candidate to lead this initiative." Marcus was speechless, overwhelmed by the turn of events. "I don't know what to say," he finally managed. As they discussed the details of the proposal, Marcus's phone rang. It was a local news station requesting an interview. Similar calls had been coming in all morning, but he had been hesitant to engage with the media. This time, however, with the support of his colleagues and new allies around him, he decided to accept. "I think it's important to share this story," he explained to the group. "Not to shame anyone, but to start a necessary conversation about assumptions and the harm they can cause." 6 months later, Marcus Johnson stood at a podium in the Westfield Elementary auditorium, addressing a packed room of educators, parents, and community members at the launch of the district's new Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion initiative. "What happened that day in the park could have ended very differently," Marcus said, his voice strong and clear. "But instead of allowing bitterness to take root, we chose to transform that moment into an opportunity for growth and understanding." In the front row sat Karen and Lily Anderson, both beaming with pride. Beside them was Officer Ramirez, who had become an unexpected ally in police reform efforts following the incident. Even Officer Blake was present, having volunteered to lead sensitivity training workshops for the police department. Notable by her absence was Stephanie Meyer, whose life had taken a difficult turn after the video went viral. She had lost her job at a local real estate agency when clients refused to work with her. Her social media accounts had been flooded with criticism, and she had eventually moved to another town to escape the notoriety. Before leaving, however, Stephanie had sent Marcus a heartfelt letter of apology. "I never considered myself racist," she had written, "but that day in the park forced me to confront biases I didn't even know I had. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you and your daughter, and I'm working every day to be better." Marcus had appreciated her honesty and had even invited her to the initiative launch, but understood when she declined, saying she wasn't ready to face the community yet. As Marcus concluded his speech, he introduced a surprise guest, Jacob Meyer, Stephanie's 16-year-old son, who had reached out to Marcus independently after the incident. "When I saw that video of what my mom did," Jacob told the audience, his voice shaking slightly, "I was horrified and ashamed. But Mr. Johnson taught me that shame without action is wasted emotion. He's been mentoring me for the past few months, helping me understand how to be an ally and how to stand up against racism, even when, especially when, it's uncomfortable." The audience applauded as Jacob and Marcus embraced on stage. Zara, now 9 years old, joined them, presenting Jacob with a friendship bracelet she had made. Later that evening, as the event wound down, a local reporter approached Marcus. "Some people are calling what happened to Stephanie Meyer karma," the reporter noted. "How do you feel about that?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "I don't believe in punishment for its own sake," he finally replied. "What I believe in is accountability and growth. Stephanie is facing the natural consequences of her actions, yes, but the real karma, if you want to call it that, is that her mistake has sparked positive change throughout our community. Her son is now an advocate for racial justice. Our police department has improved its training. Our schools are having crucial conversations about bias that might never have happened otherwise." He looked across the room at Zara, who was playing with Lily and several other children, their differences in appearance meaningless to them. "The best karma isn't revenge," he concluded. "It's transformation." As the reporter jotted down his words, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Stephanie. "Saw the news coverage. Jacob looks so happy. Thank you for being the man I wrongly judged you to be. I'm still learning, but I'm trying." Marcus smiled and typed a simple reply. "That's all any of us can do. Keep trying."